Okay, I just created a PowerPoint for this lesson on theoretical application of a literary work. This is really for the Ralph scholars out there to model their own PowerPoint projects, which I do at the end of the semester. Now, you don't have to follow the sample slide by slide. You don't even need to do this voiceover either. Text on the slide will be fine. I'll be looking for your explanation of the theory, as well as your analysis upon the literary work. While you can choose the theory and the literary work for your list, your decision does need to be approved by me just so that I can make sure that no one else does that theory. For this PowerPoint, I decided to do a Lacanian psychoanalysis because, as I admitted earlier, I'm more of an expert on Freudian psychoanalysis than Lacan. So I wanted to tackle something challenging. Lacan rehashes most of Freud's theories and terms into a francophilic perspective. While the libido is still there, his theory is without the sexual baggage one finds in Freud. For my story, I decided to choose Girl by Jamaica Kincaid. This was sort of a random choice. Some theories do not apply to similar works. For instance, it's disadvantageous to do a post-colonial reading of Madame Bovary because, let's face it, racial tension doesn't play within that French melodrama. Postmodern reading of Oedipus would be useless as well, since it's a classical work. Others are too obvious. A Freudian reading of Oedipus is pointless since Freud already did that. So you want to choose something that's worth doing. Note that the title here is a bit original. It's not bland. It mentions both the theory and the reading. It also notes my name, the course, and the date of the slide. This next slide, I go into the basic background of the theory's founder, Jacques Lacan, born 1901, died 1981. Lacan is a controversial figure, taking another theory on child development from a more controversial figure, Sigmund Freud. And this was not an uncommon with the French, who often took German philosophy after the war and made it their own. Louis Althusser did that with Marx. Michel Foucault did that with Friedrich Nietzsche. It's almost as though the French were reclaiming German thought, which was negatively impacted by the Third Reich. The French made the Germans acceptable again. So Lacan stripped away a lot of the Freudian sexual hang-ups and flawed research, and then focusing on how sexual desire in early childhood leads to the development of language. The main collection of his essays in Écrits is a series of seminars Lacan had done in the 40s and 50s that were translated into English and allowed the rest of Europe to do psychoanalysis again without bringing up Freud. And with Lacan's French, it's so densely difficult and translations don't help. So if you're going to do Lacan, I would suggest reading one of these shorter essays from this collection, since understanding them would take up a lifetime. Um, I chose this passage from Écrits on his theory of the mirror stage. And again, look at this. This is hard to penetrate what Lacan is saying here. However, the mirror stage is probably Lacan's most popular of the ideas. It states that an infant between the ages of 6 to 18 months is able to recognize himself in the mirror as a whole being for the first time, and yet this image is only an ideal. As an infant might see himself stand and smile, but he can't walk and talk. The image does not match up to what he wants to do, and this leads to a frustration and anxiety within the child's mind, where his desire is unfulfilled by his own existence. His inner being, his Interwelt, doesn't align with his surroundings, Umwelt. And as you can see with Freud too, how one's ego doesn't match up to what society demands from him. So after the mirror stage, the child learns language, organizing system established by adults in order to train a child into society. For Freud, this becomes the law of the father. For Lacan, it's a system of language that allows the child to express his wants and desires but still feel unfulfilled. This dilemma is seen in semiotics, in poetics, difficulties of mimesis, the form mismatching with reality, the signifier misrepresenting the signified. Lacan brings all of these linguistics and structuralist viewpoints into psychoanalysis, and that's why he's worth studying. So now we got the theory out of the way. We apply the theory to a literary work, and here I chose a girl. Um, Basically, the story, if you call it that, is a paragraph-long, sentence-long narrative with no climax, no resolution. There is a conflict between the adult female and the female child. Whether the mother or daughter is unknown and probably irrelevant. They represent the authority figure and her subject. The mother figure speaks the most, addressing the reader as if they were the child, being told how to dress, how to speak to strangers, how to cook and clean, how to make love to a man. The daughter speaks only twice, one time to deny the mother's accusations and another time to see or to ask what if. The mother tackles a variety of subjects, including housework, abortion, happy marriage, as if to prepare the child for female adulthood. And it's easy to do a feminist and postmodern reading, therefore, of this story, but you can also see how the story can be seen with a psychoanalytical lens. It's all about desire and duty, the id and the superego. That, of course, would be Freud, but a Lacanian reading would take into account how the mother, through the use of repetitive language, is trying to construct a female adult out of this girl. And yet the girl has her own desires and wills, to question and deny the authoritative language of the mother. The mother figure even accuses the girl of sexual desire, that she will become the slut I always knew you would become, end quote. But this is an extension of what the mother sees in herself. It's the idea I, and her fear that all girls will become sluts if not properly trained. The mother assumes that the girl will become a slut, regardless of the training and the teaching, and she will become the sexual being who must be pleasing to a potential husband. She might also have the option of abortion to get rid of a child before it becomes a child. In fact, all of the actions are to ensure that the man of the house, whether a father or a sexual partner, is satisfied, disregarding whether the daughter desires it or not. However, the girl, through the questioning and denying, will most likely not become the slut, but rather a rational being who would question and deny authority. She will most likely become an individual, if allowed to, if she doesn't follow the adult woman's word. Now, I should note that with both Freud and Lacan, the child is usually male. In other words, they speak about a boy's development rather than a girl's development. Nevertheless, it does not make psychoanalytical reading forbidden. In fact, by psychoanalyzing this particular female voice, you can see how the authority voice is defined in the subject. Mother's words, the language, is still meant to shape the girls in terms of the male gaze. She's objectified by the mother or the woman as a way to continue the power structure of the man defining women. The mother confirms the patriarchal structure. The girl, meanwhile, has potential to be fulfilled apart from these male definitions by denying and questioning the authoritative voice. Granted, she might just be one girl. She might just do it two times, but her individualism is the start to a larger movement of resistance if she keeps it up. And one can see how this applies to today's perspective of woman and girl. The mirrored stage of Lacan has often been attributed to the body image issues, dysmorphia, a condition found predominantly in girls and young women, though boys and men have body images too, but that's another analysis. This condition enforces how one sees in the mirror what one does not match with how he thinks of himself. And often this image is a projection set up by society about how a female should be viewed through the media and through other women. In fact, it is this other women who pressure girls to behave a certain way in order to attract boys and men who will in turn provide them with a future. A woman is futureless without a man, and yet women are reinforcing these sexist stereotypes, the sexist structure, generation by generation. Adult women are never taught to go into the science field to start business, which they're very capable of doing. Patriarchal society favors women to stay in their roles to pleasing men and not to please themselves. Now, hopefully, such a sexist perspective is changing, but it's only possible if women stand up for each other. The Me Too movement has given a voice back to women, keeping the man silent, while some might object to, but really, it becomes understandable given the fact that women have been silenced for so long, just as the girl in the story has been silenced by the adult. Occasionally, Kincaid's girl speaks up, Lacan suggests that language is the only way to convey our wants and desires to fulfill our ideal I. Girls will need to speak up more often. And so that is my PowerPoint. And I conclude with this work citation all in MLA format. I only list the sources I quoted and cited in the PowerPoint itself. Again, once you finish with your PowerPoint, you will need to export it to a video. And if you do a voiceover, check to see if this audio is also converted. And then just submit the video to me by the end of week 15 so I can post it for discussion.